All right, everybody, this is Coach Arnie again. Welcome back to part 3, video number 3 of my Grand Canyon strength training video series here. And I just wanted to remind you that we're going to get into some Grand Canyon specific fun stuff that I do, along with some plyometric stuff. So just stay tuned. And remember, if there's ever any questions, you can always get a hold of me, and you can email me or you can call me, 602-390-9144, and I will answer your strength training questions. All right, here we go. Part 3. Hang on. All right, guys. This is Coach Arnie again. The next movement that I'm going to describe to you is probably one of my favorite. It's kind of like a cornerstone for my strength training for the Grand Canyon, because I'm such an advocate for being prepared going down the canyon, because that's what's unique about the Grand Canyon. It's that 7 to 10 miles of downhill that you have to start with, because if you're not prepared, it will throw your hips out of alignment, cause knee pain and all kind of other problems that will destroy your trip, and it won't be memorable. It'll be painful. So the exercise I'm going to describe right now is reverse tire pull. Now, I use a very heavy tire, and I first started doing this with a sled, a weighted sled, and then the tire became a little bit more convenient for me, plus it added a little bit of resistance on the floor that I use at my where I train at Pap's Dungeon. So I use a very heavy tire, but you have to decide what weight works for you. And I pull it 75 yards, one direction. I either rest, go do something else, or turn around and come back. Depending on where I'm at in my training, I may add 1 or 2 other 75-yard increments. Sometimes I'll do sprints where I'll pull it as fast as I can for about half the distance, maybe 35, 40 yards, and then turn around and go back, and just to add a little bit of flavor to my workout. But again, that's something you need to work on. But I love it because it works your quads, which is part of your hip flexors, without putting stress on your knees, which is powerful. And plus, it's done in a way that will really, you'll feel the difference. I'm telling you, reverse tire pulls, if you have access to a sled or a heavy tire, it works. So here you go. Even though you'll see here, the short distance doesn't really do justice to the movement, but you'll get the idea. A heavy tire with a chain around my waist, and phenomenal workout for building that needed strength to keep those hips in alignment going down the canyon. That's the kind of stress you're going to need to add to strengthen those muscles. So this is reverse tire pull. All right. Now, the next 2 movements that I'm going to demonstrate are total body movements that I love, and I like to sprinkle them in. I do at least once a week on alternate days, but they work my whole body, and hopefully if you have access to these pieces of equipment, it'll help. One is the kettlebell, and the other is a sledgehammer that I hit on a big tire. So first with the kettlebell, it works your whole body, but I do what's called a hinge swing. So you'll notice that I use a pretty heavy kettlebell, and I do a lot of reps, and knees are slightly bent, and then I start with the kettlebell between my legs. I swing up so that it's parallel to my chin. I don't go over my head. You don't want to add that extra stress on your shoulder. You don't need to. And then at the same time that you're lifting the kettlebell up to your chin level, you're extending your hips. So you're using your glutes and hamstrings, keeping your lower back flat. Remember that nice flat position in your back. You got to work on that. It's real important. So then I each move, it's a total body. It's total body. Legs are wider than shoulder width. And I'm going to pull that kettlebell up, and I'm going to do as many as I can go within reason. Now, I'll work up to, I think, 75 reps if I have to. But some days I'm not feeling it. I might break it up a little bit and maybe do 20 and go back and come back. So there's no rules here. Remember that. Number one rule, no rules. So, but I just do one set generally one set, and it can be pretty exhausting. So this is a kettlebell hip, and it's the hinge swing. Kettlebell is the first one. The second movement, the sledgehammer, is I use a pretty heavy sledgehammer, but I work my way up. So I've got a 20-pound sledge that I'm swinging here, but you can, whatever works for you. And if you got one hanging around the house, that's great. If you want to go buy one at Home Depot, that's fine too. But I like it because it builds my total body in an athletic type movement. And you'll notice here I swing from both sides. So I'll start right, then go left, then go. You don't want to swing on one side. I see that a lot. You want balance. You're an athlete. You're running down the Grand Canyon takes your body being athletic, takes you being athletic. You want to be able to move like a dancer. So swinging a sledgehammer will help you build that coordinated bilateral strength that you need, strength from both sides of your body that you're going to need. So this is a sledgehammer, and I'll work up to maybe 50 swings on both sides. Sometimes more, sometimes less. It depends. There's no rules here again. So the sledgehammer is, again, these are, I sprinkle these total body exercises in. Near the end, after I do my heavy strength work, I sprinkle them in near the end of my training period. I don't do them both on the same day. I'm not saying you can't. I choose not to because I put a lot of effort into these. I only do one set. I generally only do one set. So here you go. The first one is a kettlebell hip hinge, and the second one is the sledgehammer. All right, now we're going to talk a little bit about plyometrics, and that's just jumping, let's just say, because jumping, not only is it phenomenal for building bone density, strength in your hips and your bones, it's phenomenal for that because you get that pressure from jumping up and jumping down. I'm a big believer, once you're ready, on jumping up and down. So start at a height that allows you to do that. So you don't want to start so high that you can't jump down or you're fearful of jumping down, because jumping will build and strengthen your ligaments, your bones. It's phenomenal. Now, I do two different heights. One is the tire, which is generally 22 maybe inches high, and then I use a second plyometric platform, which is about 25 to 26 inches high. And I do a lot of reps, so I don't do them both in the same day. I only do one set, and it's generally close to the end of my workout as I'm working through my total body stuff, all my strength work, and then I'm going to start off on one day with the tire jumps, and it's explosive. It's quick jumps up and down to get that good explosion. Bend the knees, jump up, jump down, bend the knees, and just keep going until you're either mentally done or you're physically done. So that's the first one. The first one is the tire that I jump up about 22 inches. And the second one is the platform where I jump up, and I obviously don't do as many reps. But again, I'm a big believer in building those explosive muscles because that's what's going to carry you through when your body starts to fatigue, especially when you're coming up Bright Angel or South Kaibab and after a long day in the canyon. These exercises are going to help you to maintain good body alignment, and that's the key with doing them. So here we go. The first two plyometric movements are jumps on the tire and on the platform. And there you go. All right, continuing with my plyometrics, my probably this is next to the reverse tire pull. This is my favorite. What I've done here is, and I've really played around with this using different types of devices, but now I'm just using, you'll notice here, these are aerobic steps that are just one level of the aerobic step. I don't have the platform underneath it. And I generally set up 5 to 6 of these in a pattern about 10 feet apart. And I jump single leg hops. I hop between each one of these, and I usually go sets of 3. So let's say 5 to 6 jumps on each leg, and then I reverse back. So if I start right, then I hop back with my left, then I'll maybe do 2 or 3 sets of those, and then I'll go do something else and come back and do 2 or 3 sets again. Now, the reason I really enjoy these is because when you're coming down, especially South Kaibab or the North Rim, you know, that coming down that canyon trail puts a lot of pressure on your hips. And so that single leg strength coming down off those, you know, anywhere from 3, 6, 10-inch jumps will really put a lot of pressure on your hips. And if you haven't already caught the theme here, guys, it's those hips that need to be strengthened. And that means your knees. It's not the knee joint. The strengthening in the hips starts all the way from your glutes, lower back glutes, all the way down your hamstring, your IT band, your quads, into your knee joint. The joint is just the end result. So if all those areas are fatigued, the joint is going to start to hurt. So again, single leg hops. You'll notice how I set them up here, and I go through on the right and then come back on the left, or vice versa. And then I generally work in anywhere from 15 to 20 of these single hops all the way through on both legs. And it's just enough, especially when you add in all the other plyometrics and the reverse tire pulling. It gives you a good, nice feeling of explosive work on a little bit of fatigued legs, but it's just right. But you got to figure out what works for you. Be careful on going too high on these. That's not so important as it is technique on the single leg hops. All right, guys, here's Coach Arnie again, and that's the end of part 3 of my Grand Canyon strength training videos. And the last video is going to be part 4. We'll finish up with some of the things that I do at the end of my strength training part of my routine, you know, kind of the finishing up pieces, and then I get into core and mobility work as well. I'm also going to show you some actual training videos from the Grand Canyon and a local place here that I love to go to work on my downhill and uphill work. So here we go. So thanks again. That was part 3. And next is part 4. Hang on.